I figured out how to use a lock.
Check it, dude.
Oh, dude.
Hey guys, it's Ethan with another episode of Tuned. Today we are working on this 2JZ RX7. You guys have already seen this car in maybe a video or two if you've been paying close attention. The car came into the shop. It definitely had quite a few issues. We've gotten through several of them. Hopefully we don't have any more. I think it's ready to get on the dyno right now. But as far as the issues we had, the car was overheating initially. Right off the rip, I looked at the tune. I saw that there was a lot of timing in it. So before we even drove it, there was a video of us driving it. I pulled back a bunch of timing everywhere. We drove it. It seemed like it drove pretty good, made some power. So kind of got to appraise where the car was at, knowing that we were going to fix some things. So we pulled the, after some testing, we saw that the head gasket was bad. So we pulled the cylinder head off. So it seems like we might be working backwards in this, but we knew there was an overheating issue. And I thought maybe it was just like radiator or fans or something, but it proved that it was not the case.
Yeah.
So we ended up doing, first we did leak down, did compression and all that. Numbers 1 and 6 had very good leak down. And the middle 4 cylinders were okay, but definitely some leak down out of the exhaust valves in multiple cylinders. Could be partially from overheating, could be more likely from a lot of ignition timing that was in the timing map for the car. And it's pump gas, and it had a lot of timing, much more than we have in even some of these ethanol running 2JZ cars.
Yeah.
So anyways, I mean, there's aggressive tuning, and then there's past and I think that's what happened here. Now, if you want to look, I think this is kind of interesting to see. If you look at the underside here, remember I said 1 and 6 were good? You can see the coloration is nice and uniform on 1 and 6, and then the 4 that didn't have good compression, they are kind of ugly and random, you know? So, and when I say they didn't have good compression, they didn't have perfect compression.
Yes.
And I think they were, leak down though was like 40% out of a couple of these. So definitely in need of a valve job. It's going to get decked, of course, to check for flatness because I know it's been overheated. New head gasket. It's got ARP studs already. We'll probably we need to check those and make sure that they're usable again. But yeah, this should be running a lot better once it goes back together. It should be 100%, I believe. The bottom end all looks good. Everything else checks out. Good. So I think this is going to get off the machine shop, and then we should have a solid car after
real solid car.
And change the head gasket out. We got the cylinder head decked. We also had several burnt exhaust valve seats, so we were getting some leak down issues out of the exhaust valves. Maybe because of that excessive timing, maybe because the car had been overheated. So anyways, those are all the issues we had, and like I said, I think we've got those all defeated, and I'm ready to really get in on the tune and get it on the dyno right now.
All right, let's do it.
So I wanted to highlight that in this episode I'm going to talk specifically about ignition timing and its effects and what's safe and how to arrive at the right ballpark of ignition timing, and then once you're on the dyno, how to figure out what is too much and what's just right.
All right, so on this episode of Tune, Ethan is going to be highlighting specifically on ignition timing. What you going to be teaching us today?
Hopefully I'll be able to teach you guys quite a few things here. I have pulled up on screen, and this car is on AEM Infinity software. On screen is the ignition timing map for this car as it came up to the shop. And I looked at this, I connected with this right away before we drove it at all, and made sure check it out and check that everything was in the ballpark, that we weren't gonna risk blowing the car up just on a little test drive. So I kind of deemed the ignition timing excessive right away, and before we drove it, I pulled away like a global 5 or 6 degrees just to dumb it down and hopefully bring it into the realm of reasonable. So this is the original timing map, and I want to highlight on this map a couple specific things. So on this left column is our boost column, KPA, and on our bottom is RPM. So 100 kPa, that's 0 pounds of boost. So that's what the car hits all motor. If it didn't have a turbo, that's the most it would go. We follow that out, 20, 28. A lot of cars will peak, regardless, LS1, Honda, 2JZ, somewhere between 25 and 30 degrees is probably gonna be your peak timing at 0 pounds of boost. It's funny how that ends up being pretty similar across the board, but so this motor ends up 30, 31, 33, 34. Now we are out into a rev area that we don't really go in, but 7,000, we're gonna go there. That's 33 degrees, 32 degrees. Now that's probably okay at 0 pounds of boost. It's not gonna wreak too much havoc, but once we enter into boost, we're still sustaining some of these 28, 30 degrees well into boost. Okay, so to highlight a specific number, let's say 200 kPa, so that's a good 1 bar of boost, 6,000 RPMs. We have 25 degrees of ignition timing. And this car is on pump gas. So for comparison, I have another timing map from a drift car that I tuned, 2JZ, and here's the closest I can get to the same cell. So we have 20 degrees here, and this car was on E85. So 20 degrees. And this car probably could be running some more timing. It is a drift car, so I like to, you know, you don't want to push it all the way to the limit on a drift car. But this is 5 less degrees on a gas that lets you run a lot more timing. So knowing what your average 2JZ map looked like gave me pause when I saw that other one. Okay. So I touched on how, you know, 2JZ, LS1, Honda B Series, K Series, whatever, they all kind of take like about the same ignition timing, or, you know, in the same ballpark. So I wanted to talk about, in general, if you have a timing that you know the motor is good with at 0 PSI, so if it's like a car that never was boosted, and you see that, hey, peak timing at 0 PSI is 28 degrees. Well, if you're gonna then make boost ignition timing tables after that without, say, on a vehicle that wasn't boosted, then you take what you had in that 0 PSI column, and you're gonna move to be safe with it, to start with it. You could say, let's retard 1 degree of ignition timing across the whole row for every pound of boost that we throw at it. So if you were at 28 degrees peak at 0 PSI, and then you added 10 PSI of boost, then you might want to retard back to 18 degrees of timing. That would be pulling away 10 degrees of timing, 1 degree of timing for every pound of boost.
Okay.
And that's a good, safe starting point pretty much across the board. Like if you do 1 degree of timing retard per pound of boost, like you should have a very safe, you might even end up having a little bit too low of timing in some cases with that. So instead of retarding 1 degree for every pound of boost, where a lot of cars end up is at, say, 3/4 of a degree of retard per pound of boost. And then also, I mean, that's just a very rough way of figuring out a ballpark, because every car is different. The cam choice, the cylinder head porting, the intake manifold, the turbo every single thing adds up to each car wanting a little bit different than the next. And then, you know, a lot of cars you could get away with the first few PSI, you know, first few pounds of boost, you would maybe barely retard the timing during those first few pounds as the turbo's getting lit off. And a lot of cars are fine with that. And some cars, you can, you know, you want to retard timing up to a certain point. Once you start getting really high in the boost pressure, then you're not gonna be retarding as much once you start getting, you know, 25, 30 pounds.
Yeah.
There's kind of going to be a low timing number that you don't want to go south of, or power really suffers, and you end up maybe even being rough on the motor with too little of timing.
Exactly. All right, well, we're going to hop in this thing. We're going to see what it does, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the ignition timing, and then you got an ignition timing light.
The first thing that I'm going to do right now, because we had the cylinder head off, so like the cam timing has been, you know, of course it's set back at 0, 0 right now, and the cam gears are set 0, 0, so it should be the same way that it was, but anytime you got a standalone, especially if the head comes off, whatever, then you've got to shoot the timing with the timing light and make sure that the timing that the car is running at is matching what you're commanding in the computer.
Okay, makes sense. All right, so Ethan hit the RX7 with the timing light. He found out a few things about the timing.
Yeah, I shot it already a minute ago. It looked like it was really far off. So I turned the car off and I checked the actual cam timing to make sure that, you know, when the crank was at TDC, the cams were at the TDC position as well. So all that was good. Now I've restarted it. The timing light is on. I'm gonna lock the timing in the tune right now to 10 degrees, and then we'll see where it's sitting at up there. So I'm gonna go in the Infinity. You go into the Wizard, Setup Wizard, and then let's see, where is it? Ignition sync tab all by itself. Lock ignition timing. So click ignition timing locked at 10 degrees, and I can actually see over here in my dashboard that it is sitting at 10 degrees right now. So now let's see what the timing light says. I don't know how well this will show up on camera, but give it a see here. Okay, timing is actually way ahead right now.
So can you explain what we're looking at here on the flashes?
There's a white mark way down there, and that's TDC on the crank. And then there's this 10-0. We want that white mark to be at the 10 right now. So it's at least 10 degrees off right now. So I'm gonna adjust it on the ECU back so that it can learn that position. This is the correct position.
Okay.
And that's probably why the car has such a hard time starting up. And that's why occasionally I get a weird backfire. And that's why this idle is not stable right now either. Okay, so we didn't quite catch all of that on camera, but I now have timing locked at 0 degrees here. Let's go see what our timing light says now. If you're paying attention, I don't know if you can tell in the video, but the car sounds much better right now. And there's our crank TDC mark at our 0 timing belt cover mark. Like, we are truly at 0 degrees firing angle for the spark plug. Now I'm gonna bump it to say 10 degrees and see that it still matches up at 10 degrees as well. Then I feel confident that all my timing matches all my timing in the computer will match what's really going on.
Yeah, and you can obviously tell a huge difference with just the sound right now.
And the car fired up much better too. Like, I mean, that is fundamental. Like, I can't believe, I don't know if it got off somehow. Maybe timing was off before and we got timing good, and now we got ignition timing good, but that's pretty wild. Like, it's lucky to have stayed in one piece.
Yeah. Yo.
So we did our first, like, half pull, like maybe 50-60% throttle. 335, first number. It was about 10 pounds or so, 10, 12 pounds. Looks like the wastegate spring might be 15. I don't know. We'll see in a minute.
We'll see in a second.
And then we've got electronic boost solenoid on top of that. So right now I have minimal settings in for the boost solenoid. Just trying to make sure it does, working up incrementally, going through all the steps, checking along the way.
Checking along the way. The survey says 433 and 373.3. Wow.
Oh,
was that a decently clean run, or what just happened there?
The car did just randomly turn itself off right now. That looked like a pretty clean run though.
Yeah.
I got a log of it.
All right, guys. Well, Evan called us, and I guess he has a surprise for us. Apparently, he has another project. He's here. We're about to find out what it is. Well, because I'm an absolute idiot, I figured out how to use a lock.
Check it, dude.
Oh, dude. Walk me around it.
I mean, it's just a stock Z, so I'm pretty sure absolutely nothing's done to it.
Yeah.
It's
no body. Man, your body looks pretty damn good. Yeah.
Maybe springs, but yeah, the body's good for now.
Yeah.
You know, it's stock exhaust, needs a new timing chain, and I'll do a custom exhaust for sure.
Well, you already know this. I'm a huge fan of these. These can be really fun for a lot of...
Oh yeah. They're such good platforms.
And to be honest with you, man, we just got done doing one that was like my dream setup, and
Really?
it had the agency intakes,
Okay.
which take a lot of tuning, 3-inch all the way from top to bottom.
Okay.
E85, some new injectors, man. It was blowing out nuts power.
Really?
But those intakes are expensive.
Yeah.
But they are totally worth it, and it's a super reliable, nice setup.
Yeah, dude, I'm stoked. I'm really.
This thing is going to be beast.
I'm gonna drive the crap out of it. Yeah. I've heard that these at idle are really bad. So he just got the valve cover gasket completely replaced.
Whoa! Wow! Yeah! That's that 2JZ power. I don't even want to look. What is it?
It's pretty good.
What is it? God dang! Wow! Now that is impressive. That is 545 and 531.
I'm gonna take it for another rip in just a few minutes, checking spark plugs and stuff. Crazy.
Yeah.
Great.
Did
That was a good one.
545.
Yeah, that's nuts. I heard it literally just.
So, since you're trying to school us today, is there anything that you can explain about the
on the spark plug?
Yep.
Definitely about to do some explaining in that variety.
In accordance to the ignition timing.
Specifically, yeah. There's a little bit of oil collected in that valley, so when I pulled the spark plug out, it got some oil on it, so it made it a little bit harder to read. But you can still kind of see, you can definitely see the most important thing, which is the timing strap. Which it's right where my fingernail is, where it kind of has that yellow color, and then it goes to the gray color, but right at my fingernail. So that tells me where the timing is occurring in its majority. I mean, I pretty much completed the run, turned the car off. I didn't turn it off all the way at peak RPM, but I can still clearly tell that that's where we're jumping off at. So if I had too much timing, that strap will move down and down the base. And if it's really too much timing, I won't even see that color change. And if it's too little timing, it'll be way out here at the tip, and you'll get the tip melting. So that's for too little timing. So you want to be, you want to be in the middle of that strap, maybe a little bit on the downside of it if you're trying to be somewhat aggressive with it. But you want to make sure that you clearly see it, because once you lose visibility of that, that's when you really start running into problems.
Yep.
And so if you feel like you have more timing than you should be running, you end up at a really low timing, it might be that based on looking at your plugs, it might be that you need to change to a colder plug so that you can run the appropriate timing. Maybe sometimes 2 steps colder plug. So that's another thing to contemplate, how spark plugs and timing, how they go together with making a high performance. Sometimes we could end up with a spark plug gap that's minuscule compared to factory, where we're at something that a gapper, the minimum of the gapper, maybe even less. So all those things are really important. You can have a car that runs perfect, everything runs perfect, and just the spark plug gap is not tight enough, and that can be no clean runs, and then you just gap the plugs down, and boom, there you go, good numbers.
Good numbers.
Here is my revised ignition timing map for this car, without even driving it or checking or whatever. I just saw that there's too much timing. We pulled a significant amount of timing away. Now we have peak 30 degrees basically. I guess it taps 31 right there, but peak of 30 degrees in the 100 kPa column, and then as we move up, timing pulls away, and we don't have any of those 30, 31, 32 way out here like we were seeing before. And then down here, more importantly, at the peak torque area, we have into the upper teens, and a low 20 versus, I think before it was like 24 degrees there. That's really the sensitive area for ignition timing that, you know, you have to be careful around that peak torque. Once you're past peak torque, you can start ramping timing back in. But you got to be especially careful right there, especially in the meat of the boost and in the meat of the RPM. That's the danger zone right there.
Yeah.
Same thing applies to fueling, that this needs to be the richest portion of the map, and then as you're past that moment, you can pull some fuel.
That's the highway to the danger zone. Some of that 2JZ goodness. Oh, not quite, but it's more. 554, and I made a lot more torque.
Not quite what? What do you want it to do?
I was
1,000? What do you want?
Yeah, bro. I was saying 1,000, bro. Molly man, what up, homie? Yeah, repping your Ford Performance, everything.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? Everything, yeah, got all the goodies. All right, guys. Well, hey, we are all finished up here with the gorgeous 2JZ RX7. Ethan's put his magic on it. What do we end up with?
I ended up at 562 and 545 torque.
Dang.
So pretty good matching torque for the power.
This thing is going to rip.
Should be rowdy, yeah.
Yeah.
Should get a lot of wheel spin with that much torque.
Yeah, we better get some tire underneath this thing. Yeah.
But should be a fun handful.
Well, hey, man, really awesome tune. It took a lot of work to get this car here. We did a lot of stuff to this one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep, but I consider it an accomplishment, and this thing is ready to go on the street and be a beast. Yes. All right, so Evan in his new car here. Evan decided to always wear the best thing, white on white. But we're going to see if we can't get this timing